Hello, this is Dr. Kraus with a quick overview of using the Raspberry Pi and especially using it over VNC, which stands for Virtual Network Computing, for the EGR 345 self-balancing robot project. My main point is that even though you've never done anything with Raspberry Pi, most of you have probably never done anything with Linux, this doesn't have to be scary. Yes, the Raspberry Pi is very powerful and you can do lots and lots and lots of cool stuff with it if you choose to, but I'm not requiring you to do anything that really goes beyond what you've already done with a Jupyter notebook and serial communication with an Arduino. So as long as you can log in and launch the Jupyter notebook server, you can use the Raspberry Pi in exactly the same way we've already been doing in lab with Jupyter notebook and serial. So I've already done the hard work of proper configuration. The Raspberry Pi should boot up on campus in Kennedy or Keller and connect with the static IP address that you will be given. And as long as you have the correct static IP address, you log in over VNC, start the Jupyter Notebook server, and everything just works. And you use the Jupyter Notebook server in exactly the same way we already have been doing. So there's no need to be, like I said, if you want to go deeper into Raspberry Pi, there's tons of stuff you can do. I'm not requiring any of that. So kind of my overview of this quick presentation is you need to install a VNC client. There are different options out there. The only one that I have correctly connecting to the Raspberry Pi with all of the Raspberry Pi security settings is the real VNC viewer, which is free. You do not have to create an account with them. We'll get to that in just a second. You can just download their stuff and it works on any operating system, including Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, and Linux. You have a static IP address that I will give you that is specific to your team's Raspberry Pi. If I tell you that I've updated any of the software that I'm providing, such as serial utils or the Jupyter Notebook starting file, then you can use the git shell script command to update the software. You launch the Jupyter Notebook, and then, like I said, you use serial in the Jupyter Notebook in exactly the same way we've already been doing on our laptops. The only difference is it's over a network remote desktop kind of thing in VNC, and so there's just a little bit of lag and some other issues. So, as I mentioned, Real VNC Viewer is my recommended VNC client. It is free, it is available on anything, and if you just Google VNC Viewer, it should take you to this website. And I think I have that open already somewhere. So Google VNC Viewer, the first click is here. And then you can choose what operating system you want to download for. So if I go over here to the Windows and hit this button, it would take me to a Windows exe file. I already have that installed on my Windows 7 guest OS. So just to demonstrate this, if I said VNC Viewer, when very first time I log in, it kind of wants me to sign in and create an account with them, and it promises to sync across all my devices. None of that is necessary. You just need to go to File, New Connection, and then you need to know the IP address of your device, and you can give it a name that will be easy for you to remember. So I am not on campus, so my home router has assigned this to my Raspberry Pi. I will give you the static IP address that will work on campus. And then I'm going to call this rpi0. You can call it whatever you want. And then when I double click on it, it's going to go out on the network and see if the device is really there and if it's really open to talking to me. And then it's going to give me a username, which will be pi, and then a password, which I will also give you. And then the very first time, never mind. Normally, the very first time you log in, it says, warning, you've never logged into this device before. Are you sure you know what you're doing? But you should be rewarded with this fancy pants, life is a highway, I want to ride it background picture. Hashtag 80s reference, maybe early 90s. And so where are we at in my presentation? So we got the VNC viewer working. The very first, like I said, you go to File and create a new connection. You need the IP address. You give it a name. Once you do that, I would open a terminal, which is this little black rectangle with a greater than symbol. It's supposed to be your prompt and a little blue band across the top. If I tell you that there is software to be updated, So if you're in the terminal is super powerful. I will create another video on why you should learn, and I'm going to test you on a few basic Linux commands. Um, So look for that shortly. But take advantage of tab completion and the up arrow. Most of the commands that I'm going to give you have already been executed on your device several times, and so the up arrow should take care of that. And tab completion, if it's a long command or a long file name or whatever, it'll go out and find appropriate matches. So if I tell you that I've updated any software that I'm providing, such as serial utils, you need to go into, so cd is a command for change directory. So you change directory into this folder, like so. So I just hit capital S and tab, and it finds the only thing that's there. And then the magically weird command for updating a folder via Git. So Git is a Linux program for kind of doing code development where maybe multiple different people are working on the code, or you want to work on it on one device and sync it to another. It's actually what's used to work on the Linux kernel. It was actually, I think, invented by the guy who invented Linux, Linus Torvalds. At any rate, git pull origin master is the magical incantation. But again, I type git, I hit the up arrow, it's already been done many times, and that goes out and gets the latest version of code if I have made any changes. Next, we're going to launch the Jupyter Notebook. So I'm going to hit CD, which we said was change directory. But if it's by itself with no folder name, it takes you back to your home directory. And then from here, I'm going to launch the Jupyter Notebook. I typed JU, hit the up arrow. It's already in the history. Jupyter Notebook is starting. And so that's it. I've logged in over VNC. I've updated my software using git pull origin master. I went back to my home directory. I launched the Jupyter Notebook using the Jupyter-Notebook command, and I'm ready to go. I can now use this exactly the same way we've been doing stuff in lab. So I know that in this SBR, self-balancing robot underscore git folder, there's this starter notebook file for running a test. I also have a little USB camera showing you my robot so you can see that this is actually working, and I'm not just faking it. So I'm going to import our usual stuff. I'm going to define a data to float array function. Most of the rest of the stuff that you used to have to define every time has been pulled into the new serial utils, and I'll make another video documenting the serial utils changes. But if you have the latest version of serial utils, which you will have on your Raspberry Pi, then good things will happen for you. I've also made this code try to go out and find what your operating system is from Python. And if it can do that, so if you're, for whatever reason, not working on Raspberry Pi and you want to just work on your laptop with a long USB cable, or if your cell phone charger that's running the Raspberry Pi dies, this would come in and you could just set your Windows or Mac port name and it would automatically detect all of that. So I've created a new serial connection, but this is now an object-oriented thing, so it has its own print all function, for example. And so mine has a little welcome message on my Arduino, and then I'm going to flush it. And then my menu accepts a C command to calibrate the line sensor. And so when I do that, you can see it starts swinging my line sensor back and forth across the line. Thanks for that. Apple wants me to know that my Apple storage is full or something. Those kind of messages always come in the middle of video recording. And my calibration results aren't great. Part of that is that the new boards that I painted are a flat white as opposed to a glossy white, but I might also have my line sensor too far up in the air. So it's not great, but it's working. And then my menu also accepts a nominal speed if I want to mess with that. And then I'm ready to run a test. And if you were paying close attention, my line sensor went way outside the line because my control actually isn't terribly good. But I have data, and I can plot my data. And so that is error or position. So there's a nominal position, and then error is nominal minus that position, nominal position minus the actual position. So those are kind of mirror images of each other. But so this is probably when I hit the corner, it's kind of underdamped, and then it actually doesn't make it back to 0. Like I said, my control is not great at this point, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about, look, I can log in over VNC, I can start the Jupyter Notebook server, and I can do all the exact same stuff we've been doing over USB cables before, and that's enough to get you all the way through the project if that's how you want to do it. If you want to learn how to do Cherry Pie or Flask and create a much nicer web interface that actually might even also work with a phone or a tablet, you could do all of those things. Those are completely optional for style points, that kind of thing. So yeah, I will record a couple more videos, one on the updated serial utils module and one on basic Linux commands, and then expect a Blackboard quiz on basic Linux commands 1 week from today, 1 week from tomorrow, November 13th. Thanks. 14th. Bad math.